Hello, and welcome to the American Massage, Chiropractic, and Acupuncture Conference pre-conference broadcast series on One Concept Radio. I'm Felicia Brown, and I'll be your host for this interview and series. This is one of several broadcasts with the presenters and experts who are appearing in San Diego, California, April 20th through 22nd, and who are brought to you by the One Concept Group. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the 2012 American Massage, Chiropractic, and Acupuncture Conference sponsors, Massage Warehouse Script, MPA Media, H.J. Ross, ABMP, and Massage Envy Careers for making this year's event possible. Our very special guest today is Erik Dalton. Erik and I will be talking about his full-day class at the conference, Dalton's favorite techniques for necks, pecs, low backs, and lats. But before we get started, let me tell you a little about Erik. Erik Dalton earned philosophy and clinical psychology degrees from the University of Oklahoma. An inspiring presentation by Dr. Ida Rolf ignited a passion for studies in structural integration, cognitive, and pain management bodywork. This led to further studies at Menninger Foundation, Mueller College of Holistic Studies, Michigan State College of Osteopathic Medicine, and the Rolf Institute of Structural Integration. The creator of Myoskeletal Alignment Techniques and founder of the Freedom from Pain Institute, Erik has published 2 books, as well as numerous DVDs and a best-selling home study program. Many best-selling home study programs. In addition to his lecturing and writing endeavors, he's managed to maintain a 32-year full-time manual therapy practice. He resides in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, and Santiago, Costa Rica, with his wife and 2 overly optimistic dogs. His favorite hobby is being a grandpa. Erik, welcome. We are so delighted to have you here at the American Massage, Chiropractic, and Acupuncture Conference pre-conference broadcast series. I can't wait to talk to you today about your class, Dalton's favorite techniques for necks, pecs, low backs, and lats.
Thanks, Felicia. I appreciate it. Thanks to Scott and all the people there.
Well, we're definitely excited to have you here today as our special guest, and also having you at the conference in April is really a delight. And, of course, you know, I've heard the rumors and read probably in the last year or so that you were actually retiring, and now here you are as our mystery presenter. What inspired you to join us this year in San Diego, Erik?
Well, I am retiring. This is the only event that I have booked this year is the American Massage Conference, and I'm really looking forward to getting back to San Diego, my old hometown. Of course, I lived in that area for about 17 years, so it's a chance to visit some friends and see some therapists that I haven't seen in a long time. But mainly, I'm just interested in doing something with you guys live. I've done the World Massage Conference, which you're associated with, and I've heard this conference is really good. I kind of bowed out of doing conferences a few years ago. But I was talking to Whitney and James Ozlowski, and they were telling me what a great time you guys had in Atlanta. So I've put together a fun workshop, something that I think everybody's going to have a lot of success integrating back into their practices on Monday morning. A lot of techniques, just basically, since I'm only doing this one 8-hour workshop this year, I've kind of put together all the things that I like to do, the things that in my practice that have brought me great success in working with low back pain, sacroiliac joint problems, head and neck, and some functional scoliosis stuff.
It sounds fantastic. And who wouldn't want to go to a class that's all the favorite stuff of the instructor?
Right.
It's going to make it more fun.
Crammed into 8 hours. That's going to be interesting.
Well, I know it's going to be an extremely popular class and workshop. I have a feeling there's going to be a waiting list for it.
I've got to congratulate you guys on bringing in the chiropractors and acupuncturists, too. That's a really, really excellent idea. I don't think I've been to a conference where all the modalities are blended together like that.
Well, I can't personally take any credit for that at all, but I know that the organizers of this conference, my friends Scott, Monica, Robin, Lorna, and Angie, are incredibly innovative, and they've added a new organizer or a new person to help with the education for the chiropractors and acupuncturists, Andrea Hoda, who will be interviewing sometime later in this series. But, I agree with you. It's a really wonderful thing for them to do, bringing these different disciplines together. After all, that's what holistic healing and wellness is all about. It's not any of us having all the answers. It's about us working together to help our patients and clients get the combination of answers they need. At least that's my feeling on it. So now,
that's
Erik,
one of the things that attracted me to it too. Is I've really always had an interest in the biomechanics, spinal biomechanics, and the chiropractors definitely bring that in, and the acupuncturist, but right now it's really interesting some of the things that are going on with acupuncture and its relationship to fascia. Helen Langevin and her group from, they're in the Northeast somewhere, presenting a presentation at the Vancouver Congress on the relationship of acupuncture and the fascial meridians that Tom Myers and some of those people have outlined. So that should be real interesting.
I was just at the Canadian Massage Conference back in November and spoke with one of the acupuncture educators there, and they were talking about how in Canada, acupuncture is actually sometimes performed by massage therapists if it is indicated in musculoskeletal issues. And I thought that was really fascinating. So a lot of this group of organizers is from Canada, and bringing some of those ideas and perhaps eventually practices to the U.S. is really exciting.
Yeah, first of all, the United States needs to beef up their massage therapy number of hours before they can kind of, compete in that area too. I don't know what the standard hours are if it goes by provinces up there, but I know that I taught at Winnipeg the Canada Conference 10 years ago or something, and I think it was 1,000 hours then that was required. So, they're pretty competent after they get out of a massage school up there. So I think acupuncture could be a good thing to integrate.
Most definitely. Now, I know, obviously, as an educator, you're a big proponent of education for massage therapists and other practitioners, but you're also a practitioner. As a practitioner, why do you recommend that other practitioners, massage therapists or chiropractors, acupuncturists, and students come to events like the American Massage, Chiropractic, and Acupuncture Conference?
Well, I'm an education junkie. I probably have one of the largest collections of DVDs, actually VHSs, and some Betamaxes at my age, but in the world, because, I find every morning when I'm on my computer rowing machine, I'll stick something on. Maybe it's something I've seen 15 or 20 times or 100 times, but it gives me a spark for that day when I'm coming into my practice. I have just a spark, and that's really what a good conference, and particularly one like yours, which is education-based and not politically based, that's what it offers. It offers a spark. People get out there, they go, the way you have your workshops presented, where you have several people presenting 1 hour and some 3-hour presentations, along with my all day and James Wozlowski's Saturday and Sunday all day. And that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to inspire. It's not about going in and learning everything that the educator is standing up there saying. It's about just sharing information. And because there really is no teacher and no student, everybody is just sharing. But you're supposed to get a spark off not only just the instructor, but also all the other people that are in the workshop. It's a coming together. It's kind of a celebration. I always like to think of these things as an event. They're always an event, and we try to make them as special as possible. We have a audio visual presentation that's pretty astounding, and have the best TAs in the business, I think. Some of them have been with me for 15 years. So we really try to make it special. And, it's all about just bringing people together and celebrating and having a good time.
and there will be plenty of room and opportunity for celebration and having a good time at this conference.
Yep.
You will not be disappointed, Erik, I promise.
I hear your venue is very beautiful there.
I haven't been there yet, but I have seen some of the pictures and heard about it, and it just sounds awesome.
Yeah, there was a resort. It's not far from a resort, La Costa, in that I used to go play tennis at that resort back when I could afford it. but anyway, it's supposed to be a very beautiful area, and I just love San Diego anyway. I mean, if some of your listeners have not been to San Diego, I would wake up every morning there and go, another perfect day. I mean, it's just absolutely beautiful every single day. Even if you get a little rain, it's always gorgeous every day there.
Well, I know I'm looking forward to it. It'll be my first trip to San Diego, believe it or not. So I'll be in the newbie category there.
Good. Where are you from?
I'm a North Carolina girl.
Oh,
so I'm
really?
on the other
coast. What happened to that accent?
Oh, well, most people pointed out, you talk to those Canadian friends of ours, and they notice it right away.
Really?
Yeah. So.
Well, I'm from Oklahoma, so we're not far from the whatever it is, meridians or whatever. We're about the same place on the map, just across the country.
That's right. Well, now, Erik, I'm intrigued. I love the idea of education equals inspiration, and that we're there to spark people's inspiration. So I want to just give people a description of your class so they can get a sense of that in case they haven't had a chance to read it on the website or see it in the other marketing pieces that are out there. The description says, spend a day with Erik and the Dalton Gang. We'll be discussing hot off the press fascial findings from the Vancouver Congress and teaching some cool routines for mobilizing the neck, stabilizing the shoulder girdle, and freeing up the rib cage. In the afternoon session, we'll perform functional assessments from Erik's new book, Dynamic Body, that'll help track down weak links responsible for low back pain, sacroiliac and pelvic problems, hip capsule adhesions, OA and AA compensations, functional scoliosis, and rotator cuff impingement. Workshop participants will leave this 70% hands-on workshop with skills to help them identify and treat musculofascial length strength imbalances and understand theory and research related to neck, rib cage, low back, and hip pain. Now, I know you mentioned that you're going to be bringing in information from the Vancouver Fascial Congress. Are you actually attending the Congress and bringing some of that information into your presentation?
Yeah, I'm very excited about this Congress. We had our first one, obviously, for those people who were there, in 2007 at Harvard, and it was magical. But we did, there were presenters that were kind of, it was hard. The clinicians and the researchers were having a hard time talking to one another. They'd really never done that before. You know what I mean? We were elbow to elbow, and we weren't, It was not a good synergy completely, but they started ironing that out, and last year's 7th annual Low Back and Pelvic Pain Congress in L.A. was absolutely spectacular with a lot of the stuff that we're going to see this year in Vancouver. There, a lot of the same researchers. Leon Chateau is going to be paneling a very, very interesting topic on some of the new imaging, fascial imaging that we're actually going to be able to have in our practices, where we can actually see fascia or show our clients' patients how fascia glides and how it gets adhered to other structures. And then they're starting to discover some receptors that are in those fascial adhesions that may be pain generators. And so it's some big discoveries that are going to be presented at this Congress. And I have a booth there. I have my new Dynamic Body book is out now, and so we're going to be, I think there are only a few people that are having booths there, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And then the post-conference workshops, Tom Myers and the Steckos and a bunch of people are presenting at post-conference workshops, and that's going to be a lot of fun too. But if you guys have a chance to get up there to Vancouver in March, it's I think March 28th, 29th, and 30th, and then just 3 weeks later or so we'll be in San Diego. So a lot of education, a lot of fun. But anyway, if you can't make it to Vancouver, I'm going to be giving a full review of the things that I find most interesting. And so come to the workshop and we'll go over all that.
Excellent. Now, this may sound like a simple question, Erik, and I try to remind myself, even though I've been in this industry for a long time, as you have, there are some people listening to this broadcast that are new. They're new therapists. They may even be students, and they may not understand the relevance of fascia in dealing with pain management and some of these musculoskeletal imbalances that you're talking about. Can you just give a little bit of information about fascia and how it relates to pain? I know you could probably go on for the whole call for that, but for those who are new to massage and maybe haven't even learned that much about fascia, because I can tell you when I was in school it was not our biggest topic of learning. Could you give a little idea of that for them?
Well, you know, Felicia, that is not as common as you think. A lot of people don't understand that. I don't either, really. When I was in the Rolf Institute, went in the Rolf Institute in 1982, and we had to do a paper in order to get in back then. That we had, it was kind of like a master's thesis kind of thing, and they reviewed all that before they would even allow you to come for your interview process to see if you were going to be accepted for training. And one of the things that we had to do was a whole deal on fascia. And I went to the medical libraries at UCLA and then here at the University of Oklahoma, and I could find nothing. I mean, the only thing that they talked about fascia was just being the material that the surgeons cut through to get to the important stuff. Now we're finding out that fascia is not only the material that binds every cell, every muscle cell, every nerve cell, every brain cell in the body, but it also it appears to have, and we're still looking at all the research on this, it appears to have receptors that Robert Schleip is going to be talking a lot about, and several other the presenters, that is possibly a big pain generator that we experience in our practice. A lot of people come in with things like Dowager's humps, and of course it's a biomechanical problem where you have joints that are in trouble, but you also have fascial adhesions laying on top of that. You have 7 or 8 layers of muscles and connective tissue that kind of hold the head back against gravity, and those layers have a tendency to, those fascial layers that are surrounding each of the muscles have a tendency to lose their hydration, and then those fascial bags or fascial envelopes that surround each muscle start to adhere to their neighbor. So every movement of the neck and the shoulders and the shoulder girdle has a specific movement that it has to make, and it recruits certain muscles in certain combinations to perform each specific movement. So when we have fascial bags sticking the muscles together, you lose that independent movement of muscles, and function starts to become distorted, and then pretty soon we relearn those motor patterns as normal. That's called neuroplasticity, relearning abnormal movement patterns. And, people will come in. I hear this in my workshops a lot. I talk about it in my workshops a lot. They'll be fitted for, a dress, or some guys, maybe a suit, and you'll be in a 3-way mirror. And all of a sudden you'll look over at yourself from the side and not realize that you've had a forward head posture and slumped shoulders and excessive lumbar lordosis and stuff like that. You never know it. You relearn that pattern or those patterns as normal, and that's called reflex training, spinal learning, or neuroplasticity, and that's very, very common. So you have to catch that. The fascial problems and the biomechanical, the bony structures, work on all of it, and try to get normal movement and normal range of motion, and then, of course, functional movement training, which is very, very popular right now. It needs to be restored, too. You have to restore the length, strength, and balances in all the tissues, including fascia.
And so, I don't know if you're doing this in the training in San Diego or if it's just part of some of your other trainings, you're including some movement reeducation after you're helping to release some of those restrictions. Is that correct?
Right. The protocol I like, and this is not the protocol everybody likes, but that's all right. I like to first. I think it's a good idea for people to come in first and find out what kinds of fixations that they're having. One of the very, very common things are hip capsules. We have, of course, everybody wants to talk about low back pain, but very commonly the hips, where the femur, the head of the femur goes in the socket, the acetabulum. There's usually a restriction there. That has to have range of motion in all the cardinal planes. And when there's a fixation in range of motion in the hips, then the stress is moved up the kinetic chain through the sacroiliac joints and into the low back. So what do? We go in and start beating on the poor low back, and the low back actually craves stability more than it does mobility, and we loosen our people up too much and get them a little hypermobile in their low backs, and then they hurt more. So you have to look for that weak link. If they got low back pain, I like to not start at the bottom or start at the top. I don't like to start at the pronated foot or the TMJ problem and work around there. I like to start at the low back, observing from there, and go below, go above the fixation, and try to find out where the weak link is that may be causing that strain. It might be specifically in the low back. There may have been some kind of a trauma, a twisting, bending incident that caused actual low back to be the pain generator, but very commonly it will be in the hips, particularly on a lot of people who do excessive yoga. If they do it starting at a later age, that forward bending without coming from hinging at the hips is a very, very huge problem I see in my practice. Guys with short hamstrings will come in and get embarrassed in class because they can't touch their toes, and they'll start straining, and instead of being able to hinge from their hips, they start taking it out on their low back, and they get hypermobile in the low back. The ligaments start to create pain. The disc starts flopping around in there, and pretty soon they've got degenerative disc disease and calcium deposits and stuff like that. But we can prevent that, and we can treat it once we see it in practice. But you just have to have a place to start, and that's what we're going to do in this workshop. Is we're going to give you a place to start, a real clear place. If somebody comes in with neck pain, you're going to start at the neck rather than going through that whole process from coming from the feet, coming from the pelvis. We're going to do that, but at first we want to look at the pain generator and go above and below it and find out where the weak link is. So
it sounds like, and I've been in conversation with James Wozlowski and Whitney Lowe, I know that both of them talk a lot about assessment, particularly right. Whitney. And right. So it sounds like you're saying the same thing, that doing the assessment ahead of the treatment is really imperative. Yeah,
Whitney's one of the best at that. The orthopedic massage that they do is specific to link strength imbalances and things like that. I had the opportunity in the early 90s, when I was going to postgraduate workshops at Michigan State College of Osteopathic Medicine with Philip Greenman to meet Vladimir Yonda when he came through from the Prague, Czechoslovakia. When the Iron Curtain came down, we realized that we were dozens, if not hundreds, of years behind the people in the East, and it turned out that that their rehabilitation was talking about that a long time ago. They were talking about spend the time assessing to get to the weak link, and they had done a lot of research and testing using electromyographic, the Noraxon electromyographic equipment, to define these certain patterns that they saw. Now, that's what I like. I like to, I see 6 to 8 people a day in my practice still, and I book a year in advance. And so in order to get people through a day and try to get to their problem, because I may not be able to see them for a month, sometimes even 2 months, I have to really get right to the source of the pain. So that's what I've kind of become really good at, I think, in my practice. I think I'm as good at that as anybody else, and that is being able to locate the area that's really causing the dysfunction. Sometimes it's a structural problem, sometimes it's a rotated pelvis, sometimes it's a weak SI joint ligaments, and sometimes it's just protecting muscle guarding from something that's going on with the joints and stuff like that. But I like to follow patterns. I like to look for patterns, expect people to come in with certain things, because people do come in with certain patterns. And not very many therapists really think about that. What about right motor dominance? Most people, if you do your motor dominance check for your eye, which everybody should always do a motor dominance check to see which one of your eyes is dominant. You also, of course, are motor dominant with your arms and legs. You know, you stand on your left leg to kick with your right, and so you get vestibularly balanced dominant on your left leg, and you get motor dominant on your right. Well, you can't expect both sides to be symmetrical. They're not going to be symmetrical, even though some people disagree with this. But I like to work toward symmetry, at least in the strength category. You work toward link strength symmetry. So I look for patterns. I expect most of the people that come into my practice to have an anteriorly right rotated ilium or hip, and the left to be probably pretty normal, but sometimes posteriorly rotated, which actually causes a rotation of the pelvis around a vertical axis, which is very, very simple to assess for, and I look for that and prove to me that you don't have that. So when you come in, you can start eliminating, chopping things up real quickly so that you can get to the meat of the problem and get down in and start getting some results right away. So that's what I like to do. I like to look for patterns, prove to me you do not have this, and if they don't have it, fine, go on to the next thing. Prove to me that you don't have this in relationship with that, because it's so complex. When you get into the low back, it's so complex you cannot spend the whole session evaluating the low back. So you've got to look for certain patterns, and at least in my practice, I like to do that. But everything works. Everybody has their own way of doing things, and that's the beauty of getting together in a convention like you're having and sharing ideas, and that's what we're going to do.
Well, I like what you're saying about eliminating, and the way you phrase it, prove to me you don't have this. Do you involve your patients or clients in that process where
Absolutely.
They're actively involved?
Absolutely. I want them to, I have wall charts that I sell and stuff like that. I want them to look at that and realize that for every 1 inch that their head moves forward of their shoulders, in other words, in the sagittal plane, for every inch that it moves forward, biomechanically, you have to add 10 pounds to the weight of the head. So in a person that has a normal 12-pound head, if it moves forward 1 inch, then you have to add 10 pounds of weight to that head. So it's supporting extra weight there, and then, it gets to 3 inches, and you get into what we were talking about at my World Massage Conference podcast a couple of years ago, the 42-pound head. And that sounds ridiculous to some people, but that's how much the extensor muscles of the neck and shoulders are having to hold back against the constant force of gravity. 42 pounds, and carrying a huge bowling ball on that head all day long. So, you've got to look at the obvious patterns. Yeah, nobody has proven that a forward head posture or any kind of postural abnormalities create pain. There are no studies that can prove that. But that, to me, it's a logical sense, and so I can sometimes just use logical sense to say that if this head is that far forward, there are these things that are going to happen because of it, and I'm going to get rid of those things that are happening because of it, and then see what happens. For instance, one of the things that we're talking about in this conference is rotator cuff shoulder impingement. You can't just go in and blame the supraspinatus tendinitis or tendinosis on the person's shoulder, even though it's very, very tempting to do, because 70 to 80% of the people that come in with shoulder problems will present with that kind of impingement syndrome. The tendon is rubbing under the acromion, and it's a kind of an overuse syndrome, compromised also by trauma. But what happens is it doesn't do any good to fix that problem unless you get the shoulder girdle back up neutral on the rib cage. It has to come back. The pecs, you have to open up the front. That's why this workshop's called the pecs, lats, low backs. Low backs, we're working on all of the muscles and connective tissues that that cause that slump, those postures that we see all the time, forehead postures, rolled in shoulder girdle, internally rotated shoulders, excessive lumbar lordosis, pronated feet, things like that. We're looking for certain postures that cause that. So yes, you do get your clients, patients involved in paying attention to their, being aware of their posture, trying to burn new motor programs in their system, the way they think about their body, the way they think about the way they get up from a chair, the way they think about they bending over and picking up their baby. I got a new grandbaby that's 13 months. I saw her last night. And
congratulations.
Yeah, it's amazing. Now that she can walk, she doesn't come to me anymore. That's embarrassing, I mean, as long as she was immobile, I could always go over and pick her up. But now that she's walked, she prefers to go to her mom and dad. And so now I'm all bummed out over my grandchild not wanting to come to me. But anyway, that's when I was bending over and picking her up. I would even forget what I teach my clients in practice here is, always be careful when you're bending forward and you're twisting or rotating to one side. It's okay if you come back to neutral. The human spine and disc can withstand a really tremendous amount of lifting, even if you don't hold the weight close to your body like everybody recommends. It can still handle a lot. What it cannot handle is once you lean forward and the joints open up, the superior vertebra glides forward on its inferior neighbor, and the joint opens up. You're exposed to all kinds of stresses through the lumbar spine. So when you're rotated or twisted, like you're picking your child up from the side, you always have to come back to neutral and then bring them back up, bring the weight up, even if it's a light weight, up from neutral. And even if you forget to bend your knees and get the weight close to your body, it's a good idea, just those little things like that. I watch my clients when they're getting, when they're coming in and they are the way they sit down. I always follow them down the hall and watch the way they walk, because if you get people up and have them walk for you, they're going to pretend a certain walk, be very aware of their walk. But if you just follow them while they're walking, you can notice all these patterns that give you a lot of information before you get into a formal or working situation.
I think that's great advice. Really, you're saying that the assessment starts the moment the client walks in, not when you officially start it, but paying attention to how they're carrying their purse, or which, if they put the weight on one foot when they go to sit down or stand up, or et cetera. So
occasionally I'll drop a pencil or a pen on the floor in front of them, watch them, see how they go down for it, see what they do, whether they come to the side, whether they come back to neutral before they pick that up, and catch them right there on the spot. It's all retraining. And, we have to do it for ourselves too. I mean, I'm guilty of doing all the same bad things that I scold my clients for doing. I mean, we have to constantly be. It's good to have a reminder. My wife and I are constantly bitching at each other. No, we're scolding each other for our own. We're getting ready to have a 25-year anniversary. I guess we can afford to scold each other a bit. But yeah, it's a good idea to have somebody to bounce things off of. And your clients will appreciate it. It's not nagging them. It's coaching. It's rah. You're really doing this great. You're really looking good. I mean, I really like the way you look today. I really like the way you're moving today. How do you feel? Always go at it with a positive attitude, because that's particularly when you have them on the table. Once you start working on a person, my background is psychology, and I was very, very interested. I never thought I would ever do body work. I was interested in mainly in the unconscious mind and consciousness, the study of consciousness. And I studied a lot with Dr. Elmer Green up at Menninger Foundation, who was considered the godfather of biofeedback. And when you start to put your hands on somebody, they go from beta, which is kind of what we're talking in now, 52 cycles per second and up, brainwave activity, to alpha, 7 to 14 cycles per second brainwave activity. So as soon as you start working on people, they start to drop their brainwave activity. You put an electrocephalograph on them, and you can see them start their brainwaves immediately start to drop as soon as they're touched. That's a big part of manual therapy that we can't test manual therapy. Some therapists have the ability to really calm somebody, get them down in that space real quickly with a slow, intentional effort. My new book, Art Riggs, opens the book with a wonderful chapter called Refine Your Touch. And he really gets into that. And to me, in my workshops, that is really the most important thing that I see. I see the weaknesses that I see in therapists, and that's their ability to touch. You can talk about technique. All technique is, a lot of people complain about technique. Oh, all you teach are techniques. Technique is nothing but an invitation to touch. That's all it is. It's an invitation to touch. And if you don't have technique, you've got to have a way to invite them in. Well, the biggest problem, of course, people make is either jiggling hand syndrome, nervousness, or not knowing how to feel the tissue barriers, particularly not knowing where the barrier is, starting at the first restrictive barrier and working from there. Tom Myers has a great article that he wrote about my myoskeletal alignment techniques in the year 2000, and the feature article in Massage Magazine. It's on my website, and it's probably one of the most profound articles on touch I've ever read about Ida Rolf when she was dying. She was in her very last year of teaching an advanced class in a wheelchair, rectal cancer, etc. And he's in the prime of his life, and he's working on this gal, and she's in the chair leaning forward, and he's going down her back with his fist, as she goes down, trying to open her back up, and Ida Rolf is getting fidgety. She's watching, and she's getting antsy, and pretty soon she comes up to him with the footstool and knocks him away with with her foot thing, and gets in there with her gnarly knuckles. This gal, Tweety, that's on the leaning forward, doesn't know that Ida Rolf has stepped in. And here she is in a wheelchair, locks the legs of the wheelchair, the wheels, and then comes in with these gnarly knuckles. And Tweety immediately goes, "Yes, that's it. There you go. That's it, Tom." He said his level of confidence just dropped like here's this gnarly old woman that's 85 years old. Coming in, and here he is in the prime of his life with all his body weight on this gal, and he had no sense of touch. He didn't know how to meet the barriers and go with it. But back to one quick thing before we go on. Back to this consciousness thing. As soon as you have your hands on the people, they start to drop. And when they start to drop, you have to watch what you say, because everything that you say is exponentially more important to them. So you're always pep talking them. Good, that's good. Yes, okay, we'll move it this way. Yes, that's what we want to, that's what we want to feel. You don't want to use terms like that's bad or that should hurt or things like that. Because the longer you're in the session, the more they trust you. Of course, what happens and why sessions become profoundly more important than others, after you've seen somebody for a while, they just come in and they're trusting you the moment they walk in. It's a friendly relationship. It's a good friend relationship. I'm working on a good friend relationship, so you don't have to go through those boundaries of, okay, well, do I trust this person to put his elbow in my back or neck or something? So the more that they do that, the more they're able to drop right down to where you want them. And at that point, everything you do is exponentially important. It's very, very helpful to start adding those little coaching rah-rahs through that stuff. So anyway, I don't know what that had to do with the original question. But
well, no, I think it's a fantastic reminder for people out there that what you do with people is not just a collection of techniques.
Yep.
It really is so much deeper than that with your level of touch, and that you have to really be conscious of what you're doing. I think, for me, when I think about Ida Rolf coming in at 85 with the knuckles and gnarled and all of that, it reminds me of a story of a pianist who, same kind of thing, he was decrepit, balled up with arthritis in a wheelchair, but when he sat in front of a piano, he came to life with this. It was almost like a deeper knowing or I don't know, dare I say divine sort of inspiration, where he became this whole different persona in front of the piano, and this power came through him. And I think maybe that's the way I interpret that, is that even with her illness and being in a wheelchair, Ida knew how to be a channel for that perfect touch.
Right. That's right. Yeah, if we could only teach that.
I know.
You know what I mean? That is really that's the key thing in all bodywork right there is that it's a combination of consciousness and intent. I mean, Ida Rolf was always talking about intent, and it's what do you think you're doing? But sometimes I have an office here at my house, and I don't like anybody between me and my clients. I don't like a lot of secretaries, office managers, no helpers or anything like that. I want to be as personal. I have an answering machine. I've got rid of all that. Did the office thing for a few years and at the Santa Monica Rolf Center, it wasn't for me. I have just a very quiet, laid-back place on the lake here with a beautiful view out my windows to kind of get them and myself in that place. And it's all about setting the setting. I mean, where they come in and they immediately, I know this sounds corny, but I got classical music very lightly playing in the one little area for a seated area where people wait. And, they immediately come in and they're already, you're setting the mood. You're setting everything for them. The stage is set so that you can perform that magic. And that magic doesn't always happen. The harder you try, sometimes the worse you get. Sometimes if I'm just not happening in this session, I'll just kind of look out at the geese on the lake and try to get my conscious mind out of it, because sometimes that cerebral cortex can really destroy a session. You're too much into your head. You got to just let the hands go where they will sometimes. And too much evaluation and too much of that will destroy a session. And that's stuff you cannot teach.
That's very true. And, it's interesting because as a practitioner myself for 18 years almost, there have been times when I was in my head and I'm thinking, gosh, I'm just not doing a good job here at all. And so I would just try to do exactly what you're talking about. And I'd still walk out of the room saying, that was awful. I don't know what happened, but I wasn't there. Oh, it's terrible. And yet, sometimes those are the sessions that clients will come out and say, what did you do today? That was fantastic. Mm-hmm. And I think, gosh, maybe I don't need to be so worried about being in my head. Maybe when I am detached, when I can detach like that, that is when the true inspiration comes through. And you're right, that's a hard thing to teach, but I think the fact that you're saying this, while you're still an educator that's going to come in and teach these high-level techniques that are so effective, it's really powerful. Yeah. Because you're saying it's not just the technique. It really is the intent, the touch, that, what do you say, je ne sais quoi, that's something we don't know what it is, that you tap into that can make a session so incredibly successful.
Right. Set the stage all the way around that, all the way around your deal. And one of the best ways to set that stage that we're talking about, that consciousness kind of thing and that letting go kind of thing and trusting your motor learning programs. And really so much of this, so many of the things that you talk about with your pianist, and I have a neurosurgeon here in town that's a friend of mine who's one of those guys too. He was a horrible alcoholic for many years, and then he and one of the top neurosurgeons at the time, and he would come in completely just shaking and screaming. He was just always in a bad mood and everything. But when he put his hands, when he started to get the electron microscope, and he could micro-stitch and his hands would quit shaking and all that stuff. But that's not just magic, there's a certain amount of magic that comes through, and like you say, kind of channeling whatever that energy is. But there's one of the key things to it, and I just wrote this chapter in my book called "May the Course Be With You," and it's about golfing, and I get into not only the fascial, the restrictions in the fascial system that you've got to look for all the way through, that Tom Myers and those people talk about, but also the motor learning programs. Tiger Woods had a perfect example. His father taught him this one this one technique where he would side shift his hips just before he comes down on the downswing instead of rotation. And it took him 2 years, 5 days a week with a professional golf pro to change that one single motor pattern. He learned it wrong, and it takes a long, long time. We thought those things were easily changed. Now the new research says that motor learning programs are extremely, extremely hard to change. And as therapists, doesn't make sense to think that we can go in and change motor program patterns in people that have had them for a long, long time. It's a long-term process. And what makes one therapist better than the other, one thing that I love to say, I don't think I invented this phrase, but matter of fact, I know I didn't. I think I stole it from Pat Riley, the coach from the LA Lakers. I used to go to their games, and it was, you can't teach experience. And really, he used to say it about Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He says, you can't teach 7 foot. You're either 7 foot or you're not 7 foot, And so, but the point to that is that the motor learning, that those skills that we learn, they take a long time to get in there, and you just hope that you have good educators that are kind of guiding you along the way, so that you learn them right to begin with. You know, I mean, I've learned things wrong. Tennis, I had my guitar. I used to play music, and a guitar player I toured with thought he was going to teach me to play tennis, and told me he was a great tennis player. Well, it turns out that, of course, I learned everything wrong. It took me forever and never did become a great tennis player I wanted to be. But that's the same way in bodywork. You have to have the good coaching, but you also have to have, some people just have what I call innate palpatory, let's see, what is it called? Put that in one of Art Riggs' articles, innate kinesthetic palpatory awareness. Innate kinesthetic palpatory awareness. And really what that means is you have a lot of people, a lot of therapists, massage therapists, body workers, chiropractors, acupuncturists, whatever, and they come in and they're just a natural. You know what I mean? I'm not one of those people, you know, that just has that. They got the heavy hands, you know, they just come in when they're shaking your hand, when they're, you know, patting you on the back goodbye. They just kind of cling to you. Very kinesthetic people. Well, I'm not one of those, but that doesn't mean that you can't learn that skill. Those people are going to learn it quicker than you are, but they may not learn some of the visual ideas from techniques and things like that as quickly as others. But that is something that I always wished I had been blessed with, more of a kinesthesia. I think my wife wished I were blessed with more of that too, but whatever. But yeah, that's that. You know, it's all just part of the magic of bodywork. It's wonderful. That's why it's the greatest profession to be in. There is no better thing than touch therapy. There is no better profession ever to be in than touch therapy. It's the most evolved of all professions, in my opinion.
I agree. I always tell people that we are the bringers of light. We are those that touch others, and we have the chance to be a gatekeeper of a wide array of information, healing, learning, and so many other things. Erik, I know that I've kept you on the phone a long time, and I don't want to misuse your time. Do you have time for a couple more questions, or?
Sure.
Okay. I wanted to ask you, you've talked about your book, Dynamic Body, that was just released a couple of times, and I know people are going to be interested in, you know, in the information that's in that. I'm wondering if any of that is going to be in the 8-hour workshop at the American Massage, Chiropractic, and Acupuncture Conference.
Well, that book is a collection of 16 authors and then 17, including myself. I have 5 chapters in the book, and people, Art Riggs I was talking about earlier, Tom Myers, Robert Schleif is going to be presenting at the Fascial Congress, and just a host of really great people that I have always admired. And I started inviting these people over 3 years ago to contribute a chapter in the book so that I can have a multidisciplinary. We have a chiropractor, Craig Levinson from LA Sports and Spine Center, physical therapist, a manipulative osteopath from Dallas, and every field is touched on in this book, and so as far as teaching it in this workshop, what we're going to teach in this workshop are some of the functional movement in the afternoon session of that Friday on the 20th. We're teaching a few functional tests that I show in my book, eccentric step-down test, and a few things that show that pelvic imbalance patterns that we were talking about that in the hips that sometimes leads or often leads to sacroiliac joint low back pain. Very commonly are predictable patterns of weakness and strength. For instance, the glute max is typically going to be a big baby, weak, and the gluteus medius and minimus both are going to be overpowered by the other hip abductors, particularly the IT band muscles and muscles that control the IT band. And so, you know, we're going to use some of those tests. We're going to use an Vladimir Yonda hip abduction test to help weed out those patterns real quick so that we can get in and do something about those to help our people with low back, chronic low back and pain, and also knee pain, stuff like that. So Yeah, in my book, this dynamic body book, which has really taken off. I can't believe how popular it has become so quickly. I mean, I really didn't expect a multidisciplinary book like that to. I didn't know people were really that interested in it. I knew I was interested in it, but I guess there are other people that feel the same way as you and I. We've been talking about this, and the fact that you guys are inviting your chiropractors and your acupuncturists and massage therapists to join together is, when you were saying that in your introduction, it just got to me thinking, that's probably exactly why your conferences are so popular, is because you think multidisciplinary, and that's what this book is, and I'm just surprised by the popularity, and I'm very grateful, and I know, speaking for all the authors in the book, we're all very, very happy that it's been so well received. But we are going to take advantage of some of those functional movement tests that people aren't using very commonly right now in practice, that just take very few minutes to perform, and we got a bunch of surprises in this thing. Since I'm only teaching 8 hours the whole year, it's pretty easy to prepare for that. I am used to teaching, started out at 18 workshops a year, and then went to 16, then to 14, then to 12, and last year only 6 or 8. And so I quit doing those things and focusing on my new projects that are coming up. And so, we're going to be having a blast and presenting all that stuff from the book, a lot of the things from the book in the conference. And I think we're having a book signing party there that you guys may be sponsoring. And I've got a booth there so you guys can come by, and my teaching assistants will be working on people as they come by and stuff like that. So it should be fun.
It's going to be fantastic. And since this is your only live class plan for 2012, it's obvious that not everyone listening in is going to be able to attend, although we want everyone to sign up, but there is a limited amount of space available.
Right.
How can people access your home study courses and the other products that you offer so that they can continue to learn from you even if they can't make it to that class?
Yeah, the very best way to keep in touch with me is, of course, erikdalton.com, ERIKDALTON.com, and sign up for the free newsletter. I do a monthly or sometimes bi-monthly newsletter, technique newsletter, where I send out, just something simple that you can put into your practice immediately, and a lot of industry gossip and research and stuff like that. Anything that's new and that I find interesting, we post it. And of course on Facebook, I've got maxed out on my personal page, but my Erik Dalton myoskeletal therapy page is where we have about 6,000 people on that page, and we keep together. We're chatting it up all the time, and that's a bunch of fun. And but the best way to look at the products and the articles, I have a bunch of articles posted on there, not only by myself but by other people that I admire, is the erikdalton.com.
Excellent.
Mm-hmm.
And before we close, I have to ask you, Erik, are you still planning to move to Costa Rica, and will this be the last that we see of you, or are there going to be more DVDs or books out there?
Well, that's what happened, Felicia. The oddest thing when I announced in November or September last year that I wouldn't be teaching this year, everybody thought I had cancer or something. They kept going, "Oh, what's wrong with you?" I started getting all these emails. "Oh, I'm so sorry." I'm sorry for what? It's not that I'm dying. It's just that I'm chosen that I was on the road in the music business for 15 years, and I've been on the road with this for 15 years, and I'm really interested in going to these research conferences. I'm a perpetual learner. I'd rather learn than teach, really. I enjoy teaching once I'm there, but getting there and getting it all organized is a little more than I'm interested in. I'm trying to get that. We have a house in Costa Rica, like you say, outside of halfway between the big ugly city of San Jose and the beach, and we look at the ocean to the south, and we're in the mountains. We look at the ocean to the south, and then through the mountains to the ocean to the west. So it's paradise there. We grow all our own foods and all that. So, and we're building a little spa resort there on our property in the next couple of years. And of course, I have a place there, Pura Vida Resort, that I teach, have been teaching every year for the last 10 years. And Tom Myers and Ben Benjamin are getting ready to teach there next in February, just about a month from now. And I'm going to go pick Tom and his wife Kwan up after they at the resort after they get through, and take them to our house. My wife and I are going to take them to our house, and we're going to hang out for a few days and tell lies about all of our how great a therapist we are and all that stuff, and how much we've accomplished. No, but yeah, no, I've got a lot of, I have another home study course I'm trying to complete, actually 2 home study courses that one is almost completed, and then I have another one that I just have to write a small book for, and then I'll have 4 home study courses, and we're going to offer a Master Myoskeletal Therapy certification with a live presentation in Costa Rica probably in 2013. So, yeah, we got a lot of stuff we're doing, but teaching, the only thing we're teaching is the mystery presenter presentation at your conference.
We are thrilled to have you, and I know that everyone listening is going to want to know how to sign up. So let me pause for a moment here, Erik, while I tell people about the conference and how to sign up for your class. The American Massage, Chiropractic, and Acupuncture Conference is one of the largest exhibitions of massage, chiropractic, and acupuncture products, continuing education, and business opportunities for practitioners of all disciplines. This year's conference will feature over 100 exhibitors, continuing education classes of 1-hour, 3-hour, and 1-day workshops, including Erik Dalton's only live workshop in 2012. So you got to be there because this is it. Other events during the weekend include a free keynote presentation sponsored by ABMP with Dean Juhan, the author of Job's Body, a charity golf tournament benefiting the Make-A-Wish Foundation, and the One Concept Gala and Dinner Dance. Now, the registration cost for the conference is just $40, which includes admission to the trade halls and all 1-hour presentations, participations in raffles, and giveaways of literally thousands of dollars in prizes. Also, there will be between-class coffee breaks and loaded goodie bags for everyone who comes. Attendees will also have access to many special offers and promotions from the conference exhibitors, as well as the chance to have a fantastic time, like Erik and I have been talking about, with friends and colleagues. Now, for students, the conference also offers a free student day and Smart from the Start program. That's on Friday, and it's sponsored by Massage Warehouse Script and Performance Health. This day is dedicated to massage, chiropractic, and acupuncture students who are currently enrolled in school or will graduate in 2012, and includes a free gift bag for the first 350 students. Also on Friday, all attendees are invited to attend a special presentation, Disciplines Unite, from 12 until 2, and the One Concept Job Fair from 2 until 4 p.m. All of this is happening at the Conference Hotel. That's the Town and Country Resort and Conference Center. I definitely suggest you make plans to stay there if at all possible. Single and double rates are just $125 a night, but space is limited, so please make sure to make your reservations now. Also, MPA Media is printing the American Massage, Chiropractic, and Acupuncture Conference event program inside all 3 of their magazines, Massage Today, Acupuncture Today, and Dynamic Chiropractic. These will be given out at the conference and distributed throughout the U.S. to over 133,000 practitioners. So if you are a vendor or educator who's listening today and you'd like to get some great exposure for your class or product, please contact Sandy Pierce of MPA Media for details on being a part of the conference program. Now, if you're ready to register for the American Massage, Chiropractic, and Acupuncture Conference, April 20th through 22nd in San Diego, and, of course, to meet Erik Dalton by attending his only class in 2012, there are now 2 ways to do so. First, you can register online and pick your courses instantly at the official conference websites. Depending on your discipline, go to www.americanmassageconference.com, AmericanAcupunctureConference.com, or AmericanChiropracticConference.com. You can also register by phone. The call is free, and our operators are waiting to talk to you. That number is 877-674-3504. That's 877-674-3504. We also invite you to stay connected with us on Facebook at facebook.com/American Massage Conference, American Chiropractic Conference, and or American Acupuncture Conference. Again, the American Massage, Chiropractic, and Acupuncture Conference is made possible by all of our wonderful sponsors. Thank you so much to Massage Warehouse Script, MPA Media, HJ Ross, ABMP, and Massage Envy Careers. I hope after today's broadcast that everyone listening is ready to register and to come take Erik's 8-hour class on Dalton's favorite techniques for necks, pecs, low backs, and lats. Erik, it has been a real pleasure talking with you today and hearing about your class, as well as just all the great information you have stored in that mind and brain. All your years of experience are evident, and I know your class is going to be extremely popular. Thank you again for taking the time to do this interview with me.
That's great. I love your voice, Felicia. It's
oh.
very, very soothing. I went to sleep when you were giving your little presentation there. It's very calming.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, I'll have to send you one of my meditation CDs, or maybe bring you
so that's why you were so aware of that. Ah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for the compliment, Erik.
You're welcome.
And thanks again for being here. This is Felicia Brown, and on behalf of everyone from the American Massage, Chiropractic, and Acupuncture Conference and One Concept Radio, I want to thank you for tuning into this edition of the pre-conference broadcast series. Please remember to tune in each week through April 16th for more interviews and to visit our websites and Facebook pages for replays of all the interviews in the series. We look forward to seeing you in San Diego in April. Please also consider joining us for the Canadian Massage Conference, November 1st through 3rd in Burlington, Ontario, Canada. Thanks again for tuning in, and have a fabulous day.